Hey there folks, welcome to this video. This could be a review for the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. Sorry about the B-roll footage in the background. I haven't had a chance to properly record anything new over it, and to be honest, right now I'm more concerned with the fact that I'm recording this on my laptop because my actual computer won't pick up my microphone. Let's start off with the first thing from today's race to start. George Russell's run of top fives ends with Mercedes' first DNF of the season. Not a mechanical one, collision with Pierre Gasly that sent Zhou Guanyu flying upside down, digging into the gravel, flying over the barrier, and perched between the catch fencing and the Armco. At the same time, there was a separate crash in which Bottas checked up, Alex Albon checks up as Sebastian Vettel runs into the back of Alex Albon. I'm surprised that Zhou didn't end up in the hospital for precautionary checks. He was largely treated at the on-track centre. Meanwhile, I believe that Alex Albon ended up at Coventry Hospital for checkovers. But it's believed both of them are still fit to race for the Austrian Grand Prix next week. I would have them both checked for a concussion, but I'm presuming F1 have already done that. I'm presuming they will do some kind of pre-race fitness check as well. Because that was a nasty, nasty crash. And at a day where earlier on we saw a massive crash in F2, Dennis Haugen and Roy Nizani, amplified by, of course, Sausage Curb on the inside of Vale Club. It's one of those things where it's a freak accident, but we're lucky to see how far safety has come, that this is the worst that we had. I said when the race got back going, I was surprised in some ways, because Red Bull were wanting Verstappen to start on pole, even though it put Perez further down the order, which probably would have helped them in the actual restart, but at the same time shows Red Bull's ideology as a team, because it's, you know, the Verstappen club. But it wasn't really Verstappen's race today. Some rough racing on the restart meant that he had picked up some damage, and then he later picked up more damage from the damage that came off of Sergio Perez's car due to contact with Charles Leclerc. And Perez and Leclerc, they were driving so aggressively today. I really think both of them should have been leaving with penalties. Maybe also Verstappen for his last lap move, defending from Mick Schumacher for 7th place. Because, I'll be honest, if I was Mick, Verstappen would have ended up finishing another British Grand Prix in a wall. But, yeah, after that, the Ferraris and Lewis checked out. When the Ferraris pitted, Lewis tried to get an overcut, but Mercedes had a slow pit stop. It looked like the front jack got released a bit late. 1 second to be exact. But it was enough that it put him behind both Ferraris, and then when the safety car came out, Lewis Hamilton, an eventual race winner, first race win for Carlos Sainz, both pitted onto softs. Ferrari were thinking about keeping Leclerc in front, which would have been a silly strategy by Ferrari there. But in the end, Perez was able to back up, well, Leclerc was able to back up Perez and Hamilton until they both tried to force each other off through Vale and Club. Lewis sneaks through, Perez gets back through whilst running Lewis off the track. And yeah, in the end, Leclerc runs out of power on his hard compound tyres. Holds off Alonso for 4th, with Lando in 6th. Verstappen 7th, which was a good recovery drive for somebody whose car was supposedly so broken that to be able to fix it, Red Bull had to break his car even more. Mick Schumacher getting his first points in F1. Fantastic, especially after everybody talking about how he was now sick. He was going to race 6th on the all-time list of most starts without a point. Then 9th place, Seb Vettel, behind his protege. Good to see Vettel in the points. And it was a double point finish for Haas. Kevin Magnussen in 10th. 11th place being Lance Stroll. Then you had Latifi, Ricciardo, Tsunoda. And there was all the non-classified. So Ocon, whose car broke down. I don't even remember Gasly retiring. I believe it was after he got the meatball flag. Then Bottas pulled into the pits. And then our 3 retirements from the start. George Russell, Zhou Guanyu, Alex Albon. But overall, yeah, it was an alright race. Good to see Mercedes back up there fighting towards the front. But I don't know. It felt like it was missing something. That middle part of the race was really dull. And whilst it was cool to see the wheel-to-wheel racing that we saw in the late stage of the race, it proves that Leclerc is only really able to compete for these positions if he drives in an aggressive way like Verstappen does, which usually ends in a crash. We saw Lewis backing out in COPs, unlike what he did 12 months ago, because he thought if Leclerc's going to hang around the outside, Leclerc's going off into the wall. And we saw Perez, Leclerc forcing Hamilton off the track and forcing each other off the track, which, I'll be honest, I think that's getting too far on the aggressive scale. So I think stewards and race direction need to be a bit more hands-on with how they deal with that kind of driving. Because I know people like to go back to, what about the 90s when they did this, when they did that. In the 90s, they weren't running each other off the track like they are now. Like, safety's come a long way that the drivers could be confident in doing those kinds of challenges and be confident in terms of late defending. But we'll get to a point where the safety's a necessity to stop something horrible happening when these invariably go too far. But anyways, those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye for now.